Prithvi Shantirantariksha Shantir Dyav Shantir Disha Shantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapa Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantir Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shantir Shantireva Shanti Shantirme Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastarato durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvasatbuddhimapnotu, sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Shanti 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 Harihi Om.
Good morning. When our guest speaker, Professor Giron Negron from Harvard, spoke to us a few weeks ago, he quoted from the Christmas sermon of the 13th century Dominican German theologian and mystic Meister Eckhart, and I'll be reading the entire sermon for you this morning. Here in time we make holiday because the eternal birth which God the Father bore and bears unceasingly in eternity is now born in time in human nature. St. Augustine says this birth is always happening, but if it does not happen in me, what does it profit me? What matters is that it shall happen in me. We intend, therefore, to speak of this birth as taking place in us, as being consummated in the virtuous soul, for it is in the perfect soul that God speaks his word. What I shall say is true only of the devout man, of him who has walked and is still walking in the way of God, not of the natural undisciplined man who is entirely remote from us and unconscious of this birth. There is a saying of the wise man, when all things lay in the midst of silence, then leapt there down unto me from on high, from the royal throne, a secret word. This sermon is about this word. Concerning it, three things are to be noted. The first is where in the soul God the Father speaks his word, where she is receptive of this act, where this birth occurs. The second has to do with man's conduct in relation to this act, this interior speaking, this birth. The third point will deal with the profit and how great it is that accrues from this birth. Note in the first place that in what I am about to say I intend to use natural proofs that you yourselves can grasp. For though I put more faith in the scriptures than myself, nevertheless, it is easier and better for you to learn by arguments that can be verified. First, we will take the words, in the midst of the silence there was spoken in me a secret word. But, sir, where is the silence and where the place in which the word is spoken? To begin with, it is spoken in the purest, noblest ground, yes, in the very center of the soul. That is mid-silence, for no creature ever entered there, nor any image, nor has the soul there either activity of understanding. Therefore, she is not aware of any image either of herself or any creature. Whatever the soul affects, she affects with her powers. When she understands with her intellect. When she remembers, she does so with her memory. When she loves, she does so with her will. She works then with her powers and not with her essence. Now, every exterior act is linked with some means. The power of seeing is brought into play only through the eyes, elsewhere she can neither do nor bestow such a thing as seeing. And so with all the other senses, their operations are always effected through some means or other. But there is no activity in the essence of the soul. The faculties she works with emanate from the ground of the essence, but in her actual ground there is mid-silence. Here alone is a rest and habitation for this birth, this act wherein God the Father speaks his word, for she is intrinsically receptive of nothing but the divine essence without means. Here God enters the soul with his all, not merely with a part. God enters the ground of the soul. None can touch the ground of the soul but God. No creature is admitted into her ground. It must stop outside in her powers. There it sees the image whereby it has been drawn in and found shelter. For when the soul's powers contact a creature, they set out to make of the creature an image and likeness which they absorb. By it they know the creature. Creatures cannot enter the soul, nor can the soul know anything about a creature whose image she has not willingly taken into herself. She approaches creatures through their present images, an image being a thing that the soul creates with her powers. Be it a stone, a rose, a person, or anything else she wants to know about, she gets out of the image of it which she has already taken in, and thus is able to unite herself with it. But an image received in this way must of necessity enter from without through the senses. Consequently, there is nothing so unknown to the soul as herself. The soul, says the philosopher, can neither create nor absorb an image of herself, so she has nothing to know herself by. Images all enter through the senses, hence she can have no image of herself. She knows other things, but not herself. Of nothing does she know so little as herself, owing to this arrangement. Now you must know that inwardly the soul is free from means and images. That is why God can freely unite with her without form or image. You cannot but attribute to God without measure whatever power you attribute to a master. The wiser and more powerful the master, the more immediately is his work effected and the simpler it is. Man requires many instruments for his external works. Much preparation is needed before he can bring them forth as he has imagined them. The sun and moon, whose work is to give light in their mastership, perform this very swiftly. The instant their radiance is poured forth, all the ends of the earth are filled with light. More exalted are the angels, who need fewer means for their works and have fewer images. The highest seraph has but a single image. He seizes as a unity all that his inferiors regard as manifold. Now God needs no image and has no image. Without image, likeness, or means does God work in the soul, in her ground wherein no image ever entered other than himself with his own essence. This no creature can do. How does God the Father give birth to his Son in the soul? Like creatures in image and likeness? No, by my faith, but just as he gives him birth in eternity and not otherwise. Well, but how does he give him birth there? See, God the Father has perfect insight into himself, profound and thorough knowledge of himself by means of himself, not by means of any image. And thus God the Father gives birth to his Son in the very oneness of the divine nature. Thus it is, and in no other way, that God the Father gives birth to his Son in the ground and essence of the soul, and thus he unites himself with her. Were any image present, there would be no real union, and in real union lies true bliss. Now you may say, but there is nothing innate in the soul but images. No, not so. If that were true, the soul would never be happy, but God made every creature to enjoy perfect happiness. Otherwise, God would not be the highest happiness and final goal, whereas it is his will and nature to be the Alpha and Omega of all. No creature can be happiness. And here indeed can just as little be perfection, for perfection, perfect virtue, that is to say, results from perfection of life. Therefore you truly must sojourn and dwell in your essence, in your ground, and there God shall mix with you his essence without the medium of any image. No image represents and signifies itself. It stands for that of which it is the image. Now seeing that you have no image other than what is outside you, therefore it is impossible for you to be beatified by any image whatsoever. The second point is, what must a person do to deserve and procure this birth, that it may come to pass and be consummated in him? Is it better for him to do his part toward it, to imagine and think about God, or should he keep still in peace and quiet so that God can act in him while he merely waits on God's operation? Of course, I am referring to those whose act is only for the good and perfect, those who have so absorbed and assimilated the essence of virtue that it emanates from them naturally without their seeking. They live a worthy life and have within them the lofty teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ. Such are permitted to know that the very best and utmost of attainment in this life is to remain still and let God act and speak in you. When the powers have all been withdrawn from their bodily forms and functions, then this word is spoken. Thus he says, in the midst of the silence, the secret word was spoken to me. The more completely you are able to draw on your faculties and forget those things and their images which have you taken in, the more, that is to say, you forget the creature. The nearer you are to this, and the more susceptible you are to it. If only you could suddenly be altogether unaware of things, could you but pass into oblivion of your own existence, as St. Paul did when he said, whether in the body I know not, or out of the body I know not, God knows. Here the spirit had so entirely absorbed the faculties that it had forgotten the body. Memory no longer functioned, nor understanding, nor the senses, nor even those powers whose duty it is to govern and grace the body. Vital warmth and energy were arrested, so that the body remained intact throughout the 3 days during which he neither ate nor drank. It was the same with Moses when he fasted 40 days on the mount and was none the worse for it. On the last day he was as strong as on the first. Thus a person must abscond from his senses, invert his faculties, and lapse into oblivion of things and of himself, about which the philosopher addressed the soul. Withdraw from the restlessness of external activities, and again, flee away and hide from the turmoil of outward occupations and inward thoughts, for they create nothing but discord. If God is to speak his word in the soul, she must be at rest and at peace. Then he speaks in his soul his word and himself, not an image, but himself. Dionysius says, God has no image or likeness of himself, seeing that he is intrinsically all good, truth, and being. God performs all his works in himself and outside himself simultaneously. Do not fondly imagine that God, when he created the heavens and the earth and all creatures, made one thing one day and another the next. All God did was, he willed and they were. God works without instrument and without image, and the freer you are from images, the more receptive you are to his interior operation, and the more introverted and oblivious you are, the closer you are to it. All things must be forsaken. God scorns to work among images. Now you may say, what is it that God does without images in the ground and essence? That I am incapable of knowing, for my soul powers can receive only in images. They have to recognize and lay hold of each thing in its appropriate image. They cannot recognize a bird in the image of a man. Now, since images all enter from without, this is concealed from my soul, which is most salutary for her. Not knowing makes her wonder and leads her to eager pursuit, for she knows clearly that it is, but knows not how nor what it is. No sooner does one know the reason of a thing than he tires of it and goes casting about for something new, always clamoring to know we are ever inconstant. The soul is constant only to this unknowing which keeps her pursuing. The wise man said concerning this, in the middle of the night when all things were in quiet silence, there was spoken to me a hidden word. It came like a thief by stealth. What does he mean by a word that was hidden? The nature of a word is to reveal what is hidden. It appeared before me, shining out with intent to reveal and giving me knowledge of God. Hence it is called a word, but what it was remained hidden from me. That was its stealthy coming in a whispering stillness to reveal itself. It is just because it is hidden that one is always and must be always after it. It appears and disappears. We are meant to yearn and sigh for it. St. Paul says we ought to pursue this until we spy it and not stop until we grasp it. When he returned after being caught up into the third heaven, where God was made known to him and where he beheld all things, he had forgotten nothing, but it was so deep down in his ground that his intellect could not reach it. It was veiled from him. He was therefore obliged to pursue it and search for it in himself, not outside himself. It is not outside, it is inside, wholly within. And being convinced of this, he said, I am sure that neither death nor any affliction can separate me from what I find within me. There is a fine saying of one philosopher to another about this. He says, I am aware of something in me which sparkles in my intelligence. I clearly perceive that it is something, but what I cannot grasp. Yet it seems if I could only seize it, I should know its truth. To which the other philosopher replied, follow it boldly, for if you can seize it, you will possess the sum total of all good and have eternal life. It hides, yet it shows. It comes but after the manner of a thief with intent to take and to steal all things from the soul. By emerging and showing itself somewhat, it purposes to decoy the soul and to draw it into itself, to rob it and take itself from it. As the prophet said, Lord, take from them their spirit and give them instead thy spirit. This too the loving soul meant when she said, my soul dissolved and melted away when love spoke his word. When he entered, I could not but fail. And Christ signified it by his words, whosoever shall leave anything for my sake shall be paid 100-fold, and whosoever will possess me must deny himself in all things, and whosoever will serve me must follow me, nor go any more after his own. Those who have written of the soul's nobility have gone no further than their natural intelligence could carry them. They never entered her ground, so that much remained obscure and unknown to them. I will sit in silence and hearken to what God speaks within me, said the prophet. Into this retirement steals the word in the darkness of the night. St. John says, the light shines in the darkness. It came unto its own, and as many as received it became in authority sons of God. To them was given power to become God's sons. Notice the fruit and use of this mysterious word and of this darkness. In this gloom which is his own, the Heavenly Father's Son is not born alone. You too are born there, a child of the same Heavenly Father and no other, and to you also he gives power. Call this, if you will, an ignorance, an unknowing, yet there is in it more than all knowing and understanding without it. For this outward ignorance lures and attracts you from all understood things and from yourself. This is what Christ meant when he said, Whoever denies not himself and leaves not father and mother and is not estranged from all these, he is not worthy of me. As though to say, he who abandons not creaturely externals can neither be conceived nor born in this divine birth. But divesting yourself and of everything external does indeed give it to you. May the God who has been born again as man assist us in this birth, continually helping us, weak men, to be born again in him as God. Amen.
भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरी भूरि भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरी भूरि भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरी भूरि भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरी परिपाहि मां नित्यानंद करी 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 भूरि भाग्य लहरी शौरि विरिंचि प्रमुख मोदकरी शौरि विरिंचि प्रमुख मोदकरी शौरि विरिंचि प्रमुख मोदकरी शौरि विरिंचि प्रमुख मोदकरी गौरी गिरिराज कुमारी शंकरी गौरी गिरिराज कुमारी शंकरी पारिजात चिंतामणि सदृश श्रीकरी श्रीविद्या वशंकरी पारिजात चिंतामणि सदृश श्रीकरी श्रीविद्या वशंकरी भूरि भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरी परिपाहि मां नित्यानंद करी भूरि भाग्य लहरी यतीन्द्रादि सन्नुत शुभचरिते यमेशान कुबेरादि विनुते यतीन्द्रादि सन्नुत शुभचरिते यमेशान कुबेरादि विनुते यतीन्द्रादि सन्नुत शुभचरिते यमेशान कुबेरादि विनुते अतिशय वरदे आगम विदिते अतिशय वरदे आगम विदिते अतिशय वरदे आगम विदिते अमेय महिमान्विते ललिते अमेय महिमान्विते ललिते प्रतापवराळि महाकाळि यदिच्छामि तद्देहि वृतभकाळि प्रतापवराळि महाकाळि यदिच्छामि तद्देहि वृतभकाळि भूरि भाग्य लहरी भुवनेश्वरि परिपाहि मां नित्यानन्दकरी भूरि भाग्य लहरी
Good morning. I'm reading from the book The Sermon on the Mount according to Vedanta by Swami Prabhavananda. Chapter 2, The Salt of the Earth. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. In India, when a disciple comes to a teacher, the teacher tries first of all to give him a firm faith in himself and a feeling that weakness and cowardice and failure have no part in his true nature. In the second book of Bhagavad Gita, almost the first words which Sri Krishna, the divine incarnation, says to Arjuna are, "What is this weakness? It is beneath you. Shake off this cowardice." Just as you can see the contents of a cupboard through its glass doors, a great teacher can see into your heart. But he does not condemn you for your faults and weaknesses. He knows human nature, because he realized that when you feel weak and depressed, you cannot achieve anything, cannot grow spiritually. He gives you confidence in yourself. The teacher sees not merely what you are at present, but also the capacities you will develop. Many years ago, a young Swami who was about to leave India to preach in America went to see Swami Tyagananda. When this great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna praised the young monk highly, the latter protested, "But sir, I don't have any of the qualities you are praising." Then Swami Tyagananda said, "What do you know about yourself? I see what you are going to unfold. We all have the power to unfold the divinity latent within us, but the teacher gives us confidence in our own ability to do it. At the same time, we must remember the beatitude, 'Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.' Meekness and faith in oneself must go together. The faith which Christ instilled in his disciples by calling them the salt of the earth was not the faith in the lower self, the ego, but the faith in the higher self, faith in the God within. With such faith comes self-surrender, freedom from any sense of ego." Chapter 4, Be ye therefore perfect. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. In this sentence, Jesus gives the central theme of the Sermon on the Mount. The whole purpose of man's life is stated here, and the same theme is at the heart of every religion. Seek perfection. Realize God. We have an idea of what perfection might be when it comes to physical objects or intellectual or moral goals, though individual standards may differ. But what is meant by divine perfection? As long as our minds dwell within the world of relativity, within time, space, and causation, we cannot know what this perfection is, because it is absolute. We have only a vague idea that it refers to a state of completion, of abiding peace and fulfillment. Every human being wishes to find fulfillment and perfection in his relations with other human beings, in his work, in every field of life. But when he achieves the goals the world has to offer, he is still not satisfied. He may be surrounded by a fine family and loyal friends, enjoy wealth and good health, beauty and fame, and nevertheless be haunted by a sense of lack and frustration. Of course, it is quite true that our desires can be temporarily be appeased in this world. We can have some measure of pleasure and success, but we always forget that these are impermanent. If we accept pleasure and success, we must be ready to accept pain and failure. Kapila, a philosopher of ancient India, expressed the state of perfection negatively as complete cessation of misery. The Vedic sages tried to express it positively as Sat, immortal life, Chit, infinite knowledge, and Ananda, eternal love and bliss. Behind every human effort, there is the desire, unconscious and misdirected though it may be, to find Sat Chit Ananda, in other words, the supreme reality, God. But since most of us are not aware that to find God is our real purpose in life, we continue to repeat the same enjoyments and sufferings over and over again. We waste our energies in ephemeral achievements looking for infinite reward in the finite. Only after we have passed through many experiences of pleasure and pain does spiritual discrimination dawn in us. Then we begin to see that nothing in this world can give us lasting satisfaction. Then we understand that the desire for abiding happiness, for perfection, can be fulfilled only in the eternal truth of God. We have the right to aspire to that perfection, for it is our divine heritage. In the words of St. Paul, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ.
Today we are going to sing the song Anandam Shudu Anandam. The English translation of this song goes like this. There is bliss, only bliss, in the presence of Holy Mother. Where Mother's name is chanted, the place is filled with bliss. Where Mother's glory is sung, the heart is filled with love. Where Mother's story is remembered, there is no pain and suffering. Wherever Mother resides, there is no sorrow whatsoever. Where is heart filled with Mother, there immortality is attained. Where Mother Sharada shines in glory, there is bliss, only bliss. Sitting in Mother's lap, I will chant her name and experience bliss, only bliss. Whoever calls on Mother with Jaima Sharada gets whatever is wished for. Chant Mother's name, repeat Mother's mantra, in it there is bliss, only bliss. যেখানে মাতৃলোক সেখানে নেই কুসুর আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে মায়ের ভাব সেখানে অমৃতলাভ আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে মায়ের ভাব সেখানে অমৃতলাভ আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে শারদা রূপা মা বিরাজে অপরূপা আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম বসিয়া মায়ের কোলে ডাকি মাকে মামা বলে আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম বসিয়া মায়ের কোলে ডাকি মাকে মামা বলে আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম জয় মা শারদা বলে যেথা ডাকে সবে মিলে আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম ভজরে মায়ের নাম জপরে মায়ের নাম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম ভজরে মায়ের নাম জপরে মায়ের নাম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে মায়ের নাম সেখানে আনন্দ ধাম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে মায়ের গীতি সেখানে প্রেম প্রীতি আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম যেখানে মায়ের গীতি সেখানে প্রেম প্রীতি আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম আনন্দম শুধু আনন্দম
We'll sing Break Forth, O Beauteous Heavenly Light on page 45 of your book.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. I'd like to read to you today a brief excerpt from this book titled Going Home, Jesus and Buddha as Brothers, written by the Vietnamese Buddhist monk called Thich Nhat Hanh. Some of you may have heard his name. So this section is titled The Birth of Love. In Buddhism, we learn that understanding is the very foundation of love. If understanding is not there, no matter how hard you try, you cannot love. If you say, I have to try to love him, that is nonsense. You have to understand him, and by doing so, you will love him. One of the things I have learned from the teaching of the Buddha is that without understanding, love is not possible. If a husband and wife do not understand each other, they cannot love each other. If a father and son do not understand each other, they will make each other suffer. So understanding is the key that unlocks the door to love. Understanding is the process of looking deeply. Meditation means to look deeply at things, to touch things deeply. A wave has to realize that there are other waves around her. Each wave has her own suffering. You are not the only person who suffers. Your sisters and your brothers also suffer. The moment you see the suffering in them, you stop blaming them, and you stop the suffering in you. If you suffer, and if you believe that your suffering is created by the people around you, you have to look again. Most of your suffering comes from the lack of understanding of yourself and others. In Buddhism, I don't think that compassion and loving kindness are practiced for the sake of our individual salvation. The truth taught by the Buddha is that suffering exists. If you touch suffering deeply in yourself and in the other person, understanding will arise. When understanding arises, love and acceptance will also arise, and they will bring the suffering to an end. You may believe that your suffering is greater than anyone else's, or that you are the only person who suffers. But this is not true. When you recognize the suffering around you, it will help you to suffer less. Get out of yourself and look. Christmas is an opportunity for us to do this. Suffering is in me, of course, but it is also in you. Suffering is in the world. There was a person who was born nearly 2,000 years ago. He was aware that suffering was going on in him and in his society, and he did not hide himself from the suffering. Instead, he came out to investigate deeply the nature of suffering, the causes of suffering. Because he had the courage to speak out, he became the teacher of many generations. The best way to celebrate Christmas may be to practice mindful walking, mindful sitting, and looking deeply into things, to discover that suffering is still there in every one of us and in the world. Just by recognizing suffering, we relieve our hearts of the suffering that has been weighing on us for so many days and months. According to the Buddhist teaching, when you touch suffering deeply, you will understand the nature of suffering, and then the way to happiness will reveal itself. In Buddhism, nirvana is described as peace, stability, and freedom. The practice is to realize that peace, stability, and freedom are available to us right here and now, 24 hours a day. We only need to know how to touch them, and we have to have the intention, the determination to do so. It's like the water that is always available to the wave. It is only a matter of the wave touching the water in realizing that it is there. Christmas and New Year's are opportunities for us to go home. In Asia, the Lunar New Year is considered a time for people to go back to their home, their roots. This is an opportunity for people to see each other again after some time of being apart from each other. During the time they are together, they practice connecting with each other and with their ancestors. To practice going home, to practice getting in touch with our ancestors is what everyone wants to do on a New Year's Day. When you practice the bell of mindfulness, that's the bell we have, the different kinds of bell we ring. You breathe in and you listen deeply to the sound of the bell and you say, listen, listen. Then you breathe out and you say, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. Our true home is something we all want to go back to. Some of us feel we don't have a home. So what is the meaning of true home? Does a wave have a home? When a wave looks deeply into herself, she will realize the presence of all the other waves. When we are mindful, fully living each moment of our daily lives, we may realize that everyone and everything around us is our home. Isn't it true that the air we breathe is our home? That the blue sky, the rivers, the mountains, the people around us, the trees, and the animals are our home? A wave looking deeply into herself will see that she is made up of all the other waves and will no longer feel she is cut off from everything around her. She will be able to recognize that the other waves are also her home. When you practice walking meditation, walk in such a way that you recognize your home in the here and the now. See the trees as your home, the air as your home, the blue sky as your home, and the earth that you tread on as your home. This can only be done in the here and the now. Sometimes we have a feeling of alienation. We feel lonely and as if we are cut off from everything. We have been a wanderer and have tried hard, but have never been able to reach our true home. However, we all have a home, and this is our practice, the practice of going home. It's funny, in my country, that is Vietnam, the husband refers to his wife as my home. The wife refers to her husband as my home. Talking with another person, she might say, my home said that, or my home is not here at the moment. There must be some feeling behind this. When we say home, sweet home, where is it? When we practice looking deeply, we realize that our home is everywhere. We have to be able to see that the trees are our home and the blue sky is our home. It looks like a difficult practice, but it's really easy. You only need to stop being a wanderer in order to be at home. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. The voice of the Buddha, the sound of the bell, the sunshine, everything is calling us back to our true home. Once you are back in your true home, you will feel the peace and the joy you deserve. If you are a Christian, you feel that Jesus Christ is your home. It's very comfortable to think of Jesus as your home. If you are a Buddhist, then it's very nice to think of the Buddha as your home. Your home is available in the here and the now. Christ is there, the Buddha is there. The practice is how to touch them, how to touch your home. You call Christ the living Christ, so you cannot believe that Christ is only someone who lived in the past and is no longer there. He is ever present. Your practice is how to touch him. He is your home. If you are a Buddhist, you practice very much in the same way. You invoke the name of the Buddha as one of the ways to touch the Buddha, because you know that he is your home. The living Christ, the living Buddha is your home. But the living Christ is not only a notion or an idea. He must be a reality. This is true for the living Buddha too. How can you recognize the presence of the living Christ or the living Buddha? This is your practice. Maybe when you hear the sound of the bell, you are able to recognize him, to touch your true home. Maybe because you know how to walk mindfully with concentration, you recognize your home. What is the home of a wave? The home of the wave is all the other waves, and the home of the wave is water. If the wave is capable of touching himself and the other waves very deeply, he will realize that he is made of water. Being aware that he is water, he transcends all discrimination, sorrows, and fears. Your home is available in the here and the now. Your home is Jesus or God. Your home is Buddha or Buddhahood. So as we get ready to celebrate Christmas and the New Year's and then a series of festivals that will come going forward, this is one very helpful way of all the celebrations we have everywhere, including at the Vedanta Society, are opportunities for us to, what Thich Nhat Hanh calls going home, is going back to the true self. That is a permanent home. All the other homes we move in and move out. There are so many places and people and things that will come in our lives and go away. So there are these many different homes, so to speak, that we have. But the one permanent home to which he is drawing our attention to in this passage is the home that is eternal, that a home that is always there. That's why it's here and now. And that's the home of that spiritual center within us. Some might be able to discover that spiritual center in Jesus. Some might find it in Buddha. Some might find it in Ramakrishna. Some might find it in Prophet Muhammad. Some might find it in the prophets, the Moses and others. So this practice of looking deeply, being alert, will help us discover that truth is universal, that inspiration can come to us from so many different sources. We will be able to discover through that alertness, through that looking deeply with faith, with devotion, that the essence of what we see as different traditions the world over, it's Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, Sikhism, and so on, that underlying all these different traditions is that same truth, the same essence of all truth. And that is what Vedanta draws our attention to. No matter which tradition we identify with, that we need to just look deeply, and then all these barriers, all these boundaries that we create, separating one person from another, one community from another community, all those barriers break down when we discover that universal truth underlying everyone and everything. And that's what the author means here by going home. So if you get a chance, I would encourage you to read this book. We don't have this book in our bookstore. There's another book by Thich Nhat Hanh, is one of his classics, called The Miracle of Mindfulness, which really gives a very simple, practical tips about how to remain alert in our daily lives. And that remaining alert, remaining attentive, will help us discover the truth not only in the world outside, but deep down inside our own hearts. So, as we prepare to celebrate Christmas, this would be one of the important practices we can reflect on. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So tomorrow we will celebrate Christmas Eve as we do every year. So it will begin at 6:30 in the evening. And as always, we'll have worship, carols, readings, and refreshments. And also, we'll have a special concert by our young members of our congregation. So as we have refreshments, we'll have a special concert tomorrow. So I invite all of you to join in the celebration tomorrow evening. So this week, we will not have the Tuesday and Saturday meditations, and we will also not have the study group meeting. So we meet tomorrow for the Christmas Eve celebration, and then we meet next Sunday when we celebrate Holy Mother Sharda Devi's birthday puja. So her birthday, according to the lunar calendar, comes on Friday. We will have the puja on Sunday at 10:30. And again, as usual, there'll be puja, there'll be flower offering, there'll be music, there'll be prasad. And so, and that will be and 2 days later, the 1st of January, we have our annual Kalpataru festival. So we have a series of festivals coming up. So we'll do the prayer now, and then we'll have Sarvamangala. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
We will sing Sarvamangala on page 5.